There's nothing quite like wrapping up a regular season with a bowl victory. It just leaves a good taste in your mouth going into the offseason. As we'll see a squad from the SEC, the Kentucky Wildcats, taking on a team from the Big 12, the Auburn Tigers. For EA Sports College Football, Reese Davis with you alongside David Pollack and Jesse Palmer. And guys, can't wait to get this one started.
Entering play call screen.
Kickoff team out there ready to tee it up in this bowl game. Here he comes from inside his own 5. And the returner will be dragged down. The Wildcats offense is going to be backed up thanks to that lackluster return. And here he comes, the guy who pulls all the strings in this attack.
I think what makes him so unique, he has such a good understanding of this offense. Always seems to know what the answer is to the test.
Always in control. The receivers know they're going to get the football. Everybody believes in this dude.
Coach suggestions. There are 6
Offense
categories.
getting set for first down. Use the play fake. Now to throw. Looking to the big tight end. Just masterful working that sideline and getting the toe down for the catch. And this center down gets started from the 33, 1st and 10. He wants to throw. He's got his man. A 7-yard pickup. It'll be 2nd and 3. David, given the fact that you are a devoted helmet head, I'm not sure that you're aware there are a lot of other festivities around the bowl game. Did you ever experience any of that?
Of course I'm a helmet head. Yeah, spot on. Agree with that. But here's the thing. We did a meat-eating contest at the Outback Bowl my senior year. Which squad could eat more steak from Outback? It was absolutely amazing. So I experienced that in all of its glory.
You know, as an offense, oftentimes you try the reverse play because you're trying to take advantage of a defense over pursuing and by a lot of defensive team speed. Didn't work right there. Great discipline by this defense.
Still running at the 40. And he's brought down after a huge completion.
Well, this guy obviously spent a lot of time in the film room this week because he is dissecting this defense early in the game in the opening drive. Great job with his eyes, great job with his rhythm, an explosive play there. This defense does not have an answer for this dude.
He's brought down, solid pickup, but a little bit short of the first down.
That's a good job by the drag route there, understanding its zone coverage. So instead of continuing to run across the field, he settles down into an open spot, making it easy for his quarterback.
They'll mark him down right there, but it'll be enough for a Kentucky first down.
Well, I know this is an offensive line that has a ton of pride. They want to come out each and every game and really impose their will on the D-line. They got just enough push there on that run play to pick up the first.
The offense showing motion from the tight end, trying to get a read on the D. Keeping it on the ground with the running back.
Entering play call formation. 46 there. Engaging.
It'll be 2nd down, and remember, they can pick up a first without scoring. Caught behind the line. It's Key. They make the stop at the 2, but he's got enough to give them a 1st and goal.
Nice completion here to this wide receiver. And you're going to see this receiver line up in different spots all over the field all game long. Defense has got to keep their eye on where this guy is because they know he's a big part of this offense's success.
And the defense stuffs the run, and the ball will remain at the 2.
It's an offense that takes pride in being physical. They try to get it going on the ground, but no gain on that one.
Just nowhere to run, not a lot of wiggle room for the ball carry.
This defense came in knowing that they had to match their physicality. Let's see if they can keep it up.
And those slot receivers nowadays are little water bugs, man. You can play touch football in an elevator to lose to these guys because they're so quick and so dynamic. Get open and catch the football.
Turning to the running game here on 3rd and goal. Into the end zone he goes. Touchdown, Wildcats!
everything works out for the offense, right? They went for it on 4th and 1 earlier. It was a big decision, a big gamble. They got it, and now you pay it off with the touchdown. Head coach is loving that.
About to kick it off after punching it in for the touchdown. He'll bring it out. It's Lewis. I imagine he's going to get an earful on the sideline after bringing it out of the end zone and being knocked down at the 11. The Tigers offense will try to get something started with their first possession. As we take a look at our impact players for this game, David, what do you look for to make an impact from your leaders?
Your leaders not only have to lead the football team, but they got to step up and make plays on the field, keep everybody calm. These guys typically do a really good job.
Yeah, David, and they also generally set the tone for their respective football teams. Regardless of which side of the ball they play on, the teammates look towards them to step up in big games like this.
The incompletion brings up a 2nd down. They'll go to the ground. And he's brought down after a nice game.
You know, in the SEC, you're going to have to run the football if you're going to win games. You can go on and on talking about great Auburn running backs back in the day, but right here, right now, if this team's going to win an SEC championship, they need to force feed this guy the football and let him go to work.
To the ground. He's got it again. He'll move it up to the 37-yard line, and it'll be a 1st down.
This defense is going to have to do a better job slowing down the run. We've seen twice now on this opening drive. This guy break one. And so this defense has to do a better job at the point of attack, and their D coordinator probably is already thinking to himself, well, I have to get another guy in the box to slow this guy down.
And that had all the makings of bug meat windshield, but how about the little corner taking on the big tight end and keeping him from getting the first? Back to throw, it's Thorne. He finds his man. They make the stop, but the sweet rolling catch is plenty to give him a 1st down.
And a big key on that throw to the slot receiver, guys, is putting the ball out front. The location of the throw is what helped that guy get extra yards after the catch.
Motion by the back forces the defense to adjust. He's brought down, but there's a flag on the field. Let's see which way that's going to go. They say you could call holding on every play. Well, they did on that one.
Special payouts. I shot tight slot wide offset.
After getting moved back, it's 1st and 20. The give to the back. At the 35, he's loose. He's now up to 52 yards on the ground, and that magical 1,000-yard mark is oh so close.
I think it's really important for this offense. They get this guy going early in the game, and they're doing a nice job of that right now. Remember, he's the kind of running back who gets better as the game goes on. That's a really good omen for this offense, considering his success now early.
Time winding down in the quarter as they come to the line. He'll come out throwing on 1st down. A little too much on that one, just out of his reach.
Well, the good news is he did a nice job reading the coverage. He knew exactly where to go with the football that time. Just a little bit too much on that pass. You wonder if that's just nerves. He's got to settle himself down a little bit.
He leaves it with his back. Able to move it ahead a couple of yards. He gets it down to the 20. Guys, that's the end of the quarter, and Kentucky has the lead. 1 period in the books, and let's take a look at the stats. They've switched into the field, and we're ready to get things started here in the 2nd.
Coach suggestions. There are 8 categories.
Now facing a 3rd down as they come back to the line after the break. Quarterback checking off. Back to pass, it's Thorne. Fires to the tight end. And he's not going to get there. The defense stands tall and makes the stop.
Right there, I think you need a better play call. You got to help your quarterback out a little bit because the throw has got to at least make it to the sticks. On that last play, you're basically trusting the guy to make a few dudes miss.
Got some room, headed to the goal line. And he waltzes in for the score. Touchdown, Tiger.
Coach suggestions.
I tell you, when this drive started, the defense thought they had them in a hole. Not anymore. What a performance.
And I really like the play calling by the offensive coordinator on that last drive. That was a nice mixture of running and throwing and getting different players involved. Really nice job, very poised in that play calling, and it showed up with the touchdown.
Not nearly as much as he'd hoped when he brought it out of the end zone. He'll be stopped at the 15. Kentucky sends the offense back out onto the field. After standing on the sideline and watching that long touchdown drive, they really need to put something together to give their defense a rest.
And that's a real thing, man. Like, you played a lot of plays, you get worn out. You need a chance to go decompress on the sideline, get some oxygen. Palmer, now it's on this offense.
Yeah, this is the definition of complementary football. It's a two-pronged problem. You've got to score points and answer, and you've also got to take your time and give your defense an opportunity to get their win.
It's complete. And he was just a couple of steps away from taking that one even further after the catch. Lining up from the 34 on first down. He's going to pass. Fires to the big fella. They'll get it to the 48. No need to measure it to first down. This junior quarterback shows you why the scouts love that big arm of his.
And that's why QBs love their tight ends so much, right? Especially when they're athletic, because they make short throws turn into long gains. Because of his ability after the catch, it's so unique and special. He is dominant in this offense.
He's knocked down in the backfield. He'll lose a couple.
You know, when you're running counter, those offensive linemen crashing down. They've got to be able to pin those interior D linemen. They couldn't get it done there. They gave up too much penetration. That led to the tackle for loss.
After losing a couple on that last play, here's 2nd and 12. All kinds of room to throw that one in there. Touchdown, Wildcats! A great catch and run for 6.
One of the reasons this offense is so exciting to watch, they've got guys that are dangerous after the catch. And if this quarterback gets through his progression, David, he hits you in stride, these guys will take it to the house.
Man, it's your job to do the rest, right? You hit me in stride where I don't have to stop running. I don't have to break down. It makes it so easy. The connection between quarterback, wide receiver, you can tell this is a good one, and that's why they got 6 on that play.
Not nearly as much as he'd hoped when he brought it out of the end zone. He'll be stopped at the 15. Now here comes that Auburn offense onto the field again. There wasn't much need to throw it around on that last drive for the touchdown, Jesse. They got it done running the ball.
David, I don't think you have to overthink this thing. If they can't stop you running it, why would you stop handing it off? Just keep at it here on this drive.
Well, and if I'm the defense, I'm making some changes. I'm bringing in more big bodies. I'm playing more aggressive towards the line of scrimmage. I am not going to let them have that kind of drive again.
Coaches always harp about staying ahead of the chains, and when you could run with that type of efficiency on first down, man, you are doing just that.
Formation, coach suggests player formate concept there. RPO red bubble.
Got 6 on first down. Now a lot of options on 2nd and 4. Can't quite make the connection there. Might have let him a little too much.
Well, this defense knew coming in, they were going to see some RPO, they were going to see some quick game. A nice job there taking the throw away from the quarterback.
Empty tray, wide offset. All-hitch. Wheelies, 0-1 trap.
So 3rd and short from inside the 20. You convert here, and this drive takes on a different complexion. Here's the handoff. And he was fortunate not to lose yardage on that play, able to wedge it back to the line of scrimmage.
Great job by the defense. Everybody firing off the ball, hitting their guys, holding their gaps, running to the football, nowhere to go. 4th down, and the punt team sends it the other way. No return coming. He'll call for the fair catch.
Split. There are 5 categories.
Kentucky has it back, and the big blue offense takes the field. And David, how they would love to stick it in the end zone one more time after that last drive. Fires one high and deep. Pulls it in inside the 10. Touchdown, Kentucky! And they take it in for 6 more points.
Entering play ball, coach suggestions,
It's still
there are
early,
6
but we have
categories.
some real distance being put on the scoreboard right now.
You do. It's early, but you got to find something positive. Right now, everything going in the other
Entering
direction.
play
So how are you going to
ball,
respond
special teams,
to
you
getting
have
them out
7
there in this
options,
football game?
return
Got to find
defense
something
selected.
positive quick.
On the run from inside his own 5. And the returner will be brought
Entering
down.
pistol. Concept.
And Auburn is ready to go back to work on offense.
Verticals.
Now we'll get a chance to see if they can answer that last score, trailing by 14, Jesse.
Yeah, and at this point of the game, I feel like offensively, you should go back to what's been...
Oh, what a spectacular
Entering
layout
play
and
four
catch.
verticals.
Man, I love those guys that are willing to put their body on the line. And he does it right here, man. Just lays out. That ball's coming in. You can see it from several yards out, making that play, laying out, keeping the football from touching the turf. Great concentration, great effort by the receiver.
Fires to the big fella.
Entering
And he might be
play
known
ball,
for one
flood,
pitch, but that was a short
categories,
and
we have
heavy
17
tackle on the
options,
tight
strong
end.
flood is selected.
I'll say this, man, in college football, you see a lot of bad tackling. You didn't see it right there. That was an awesome job. First off, being there at the point of attack. Once the tight end made the catch, there was no doubt. He
Entering
was
play
going
ball,
down. Great
flood,
job
there
for
are
him.
13 categories.
It'll
we
be
have
3rd and
17
short from their
options,
own
strong flood is
33.
selected. Short cross.
He'll just keep slinging it. And they got him for the sack.
Entering play ball, coach
They'll tell you that
suggestions,
somebody's
there are 8
always going to
categories, we
pop
have 12
open, but it
options.
didn't happen in time
Entering
before they
play
got the
ball,
sack.
coach
No, it did
suggestions,
not. And
there
you know
are
what?
8
I'm going to remember
categories,
this.
we
I'm going to
have
remember
12
zone
options,
defense. They
flood
didn't
is
really have an
selected.
answer. They weren't ready to get rid of the football. Quarterback hesitated. I got to him and got him on the ground. Might be a good call later on in the game.
Entering 4, even 6-1.
First down here with time for maybe one more play until the 2-minute warning.
Spread. Seam flood.
He's looking to throw it. Got him in. It's Key.
Entering
Wrestled
play
to the
ball,
ground after
cover
picking
to
up the
man.
first down. As we reach the 2-minute warning, they'll need to try to get a stop to keep this thing from getting out of hand. Looking to go up top on first down. Quickly out to the tight end.
Entering
They
play
stop him
cover one
almost
and
immediately.
elbows.
Short gain there and still a little
Spread.
ground to cover to pick up the first. Got the completion on the last play. Still some work to do on second down. Works the middle of the field. And
Entering
this
play
junior
ball,
loves to show off that big
Dive,
arm.
rush,
And this has got
cover
him
one
so
rock, cover to
demoralized
man,
for his
cover
defense.
3 club.
Having given up multiple
SS
first
overload
downs on
3.
this drive, somebody on defense has to step up, make a play, and stop the bleed.
Back to pass, it's Vandergrift. Gets open down the middle. And they'll finally
Entering
get him
play,
down after
cover
a
to hard
terrific
flat.
pickup.
Fox fires up
Well, this
to the
defense is
blitz.
being challenged, and this secondary in particular. And I know a DB made the tackle there, but we're only in the second quarter, and already this quarterback has over 200 yards passing.
They'll throw it on first down. That's caught. It's Trainer. And he'll step across the
Entering
sidelines after making a good
FS
gain on
blitz
that one.
3.
Kentucky trying to get a little scratch in the red zone. He wants to throw here on second down. And this sophomore able to wreak some havoc and get the sack.
We're only in the first half already. This guy's got 2 TD passes. So you could see the defensive coaching staff on the sideline telling this D-line, guys,
Entering
we got to
play
get after this
ball,
guy. We have
rush,
to
you have
affect his
15
rhythm
options,
and not let him be
TD
so comfortable
formation,
back there.
there are
Right there,
6
they were able to get after him. Let's see if they can keep it up.
Concept, cover 4. There are 10 categories.
They've got
You
a
have
ways to
24
go on
options.
third down
Cover
from the
4 cons
24 as
selected.
this defense tries to force him into a field goal try. And that's incomplete. A defender
Entering
all
play ball,
over him. Knocked the ball to the ground.
suggestions,
Fourth
there are 6
down coming up.
categories.
They've decided to try to go for the field goal here. And this will be a 41-yarder coming up from the right side. Splits the uprights. It's good. And they'll push that lead out a little further.
Entering play call, special teams.
That late in the
We have 7
half field goal
options.
always
Return
gives
left
you a
is
little
selected.
boost going to the locker room, and they'll need to finish off these final few seconds and not allow them to answer. On the move from inside his 5. He was hoping for something a little more dynamic, but they get him on the ground at the 20.
There are 9 subcategories of options set to come. Coach suggestions. There are 8 categories.
One more snap coming before halftime.
HD off tackle is selected.
Hand off from the shotgun. And he's taken down after a short gain, and that'll do it for us here in the first half. That's the end of the second quarter. That means it's time to join Kevin and our halftime update.
All right, guys, thanks. Looks like we've had ourselves a very enjoyable first half so far. And we have to start this halftime breakdown by addressing the play of this elite wide receiver. This is clearly a young man who, once he's finished playing on Saturdays, he's going to be playing on Sundays. The kid has different gears. He has a knack for finding gaps in the defense. And I can't remember a college player with that kind of catch radius.
Special teams.
Kentucky teeing it up and ready to go here in the second half. He'll start the return inside his 5. He's able to sneak his way across the 20 and steps out at the 21. Now here comes that Auburn offense onto the field again. It's sort of an ugly first half, honestly, but the deficit's still manageable if they want to wrap up this season. All kinds of running room. And it is a chunk play, a huge gain on that one before the defense brings it to an end.
Entering play
Yeah, defensively, you better be ready to run instant rush when you're playing against this offense in a running game. That time, the offense was able to outflank the defense to the right side for a big play.
And the defense doing a great job committing to the run. When you commit to the run like this, obviously, you can give up some plays in the passing game, but you got to stop the run first.
Picked up 2 yards on that last one. They need 8 on second down. Gonna run it. It's Alston. Really nice stop there from this senior leader.
Shot tight slot open. Punch ST. Empty quads HT.
And this offense just can't afford not to get the first down here. Already trailing big, and the clock is not their friend. That's caught. It's Thompson. There to make the tackle, but the big throw is good enough to give them a first down.
There are 35
Look, that wasn't a
categories.
touchdown.
You have 10
That is
options.
a massive play for
Selected.
this offense. They needed some momentum. They needed to find a rhythm, and what better way than converting on third down. Awesome job by the quarterback getting through.
Entering
No,
formation.
he was off to the races after the catch, and they finally drag him down.
You know, and that's why this guy can play first, second, and third down. You've already seen him earlier in the drive rip off some nice runs, but he can catch the football as well. And they're going to find ways to get him going in all sorts of ways, but you're seeing it specifically on this drive.
Entering play call.
Looks as if we have an injury on that last play, and we'll take a break to check him out. Got stuffed on first down. It's 2nd and 10. The give to the back. Got some room, headed to the goal line. And he sprints to the end zone.
Entering play call.
Touchdown,
Coach suggestions. There are 8
And the
categories.
offense
You
continues
have
to
15
run the
options.
football.
That
The
event is
second
selected.
rushing touchdown from the running back. The offensive line paving holes continue to feed this
Entering
ball.
play call.
And they
Special
tacked
teams.
on the
You
extra
have 5 options.
Lining up to cover the kick after that touchdown drive. And they thought about a return, then
Entering
thought
play
better
call.
of it. They'll bring it out to
Concept.
the 25.
Man blitz. There are 10
Kentucky
categories.
sends
You
the
have
offense
70
back out
options.
onto the
Rush
field.
outside is
They
selected.
kicked a field goal on the last drive, Jesse. They've got the lead. Don't make a dumb mistake, but maintain your aggressive play calling.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's the play caller right now, just taking a look at that script he's got in front of him, finding out where are my playmakers, who can we take advantage of on this defense to get a touchdown here.
Yeah, and just keep moving the ball down the field. Just execute a little bit better in the red zone. There's no need to panic. We're moving the football,
Entering
and we
play
got the
call.
lead.
Great job at containing by this defense. And in order to do that, the end man on the line of scrimmage defensively has got to be able to set the point and force the football back into traffic. And that's exactly what happened.
They come to the line facing 3rd and long from the 25. Looking for a man. It's Vandergrift. And the third down pass is incomplete.
Well, in the first half, this offense was up and down the field. It seemed like everything they were dialing up was working. And here we are in the third quarter, and there's a very rare incompletion on their own end of the field. Maybe that's the play the defense needs now to spark some momentum.
That nifty return sets up the offense and negates some of the yardage on the punt. And Auburn is ready to go back to work on offense. There's certainly still a hill to climb, but they've got to make sure these drives pay off. Got a touchdown last time. Can they back it up here?
Well, and it's amazing in a football game how sometimes they'll surprise you with what you do. Once you get settled and you realize what's going on now, I'm comfortable with it. Jesse, this offense looked comfortable on its last drive.
They sure did. It looked like they started to find some momentum. So now it's on this defense to stop that, all right? You're a little bit upset based on what just happened the previous drive. You've got to bow up again and go back to what was working earlier in this game.
And he was on his way. Gets it all the way to the 38.
I don't know who on defense is going to cover this up. Honestly, it could be a problem for this defense over the middle of the field for passing.
It's 1st and 10 from the 38-yard line.
Well, this offense came into the game knowing they wanted to be physical. They wanted to establish the line of scrimmage, and they're running downhill right at this defense, and they're churning out positive yardage early.
After the productive first down play, it's 2nd and 6. The run from the shotgun. Just making a play, getting it to the 23-yard line. It'll be 1st down.
It's hard to stop great running. It really is. That's why you run the football consistently. You got a big offensive line, a big physical unit. You run the football like this, man, it will take a toll later. But you got to tackle this guy over and over again who has this ability to make people miss and make big plays.
Didn't have much room to run and not a whole lot of help. Short gain there and still plenty of ground to cover for the 1st down. Still some work to do after that last completion at 2nd down. From the gun, the ground game. They'll give him maybe one on the play. It's down to the 20. Already in field goal range, but now trying to convert this 3rd and long from the 20. Trying play action. And he was hit just as he was releasing the pass, and it falls to the ground incomplete.
Got to give the defense credit on that play, taking everything away, forcing the incompletion. Now it's decision time. 4th and short, and you're in field goal range. What do you do here?
Smashes it between the uprights.
Entering play call, special teams.
So the kickoff team is out there ready to boot it away after putting up a field goal. Let's see what the defense can do. And no chance at a return. Here they'll start this drive at their own 25.
There are 10 categories.
Kentucky has it back and the Big Blue offense takes the field. Here's another opportunity, Jesse, to stretch out this lead after punting last time.
I think it goes back to your playmakers, Reese. I think it's finding the guys that have been working for you earlier on in this game and getting them the football.
And there's obviously no need to panic. I mean, think about it. You got the lead. You got the football. You got to be smart with the football. Make your plays. Put a good drive together here.
Reads it, fires complete. And just a short, safe pass play, they pick up a few.
It's hard to have success on wide receiver screens when you're facing press man coverage because your blockers out front oftentimes can't pick them up, and that receiver gets gobbled up as soon as he catches the pass. You saw it on that last play.
Big 3rd down coming from their own 31. Defense tries to get off the field. Throws to the wideout. It's complete. Good job running that route to get past the sticks because he got nothing after the catch. Kentucky back at it with a fresh set of downs. Toss to the outside. And they'll shove him out of bounds after the short gain.
I never know if it's grammatically correct to say a team is being out-physical. You hear it a lot in football, though. That's happening in this game. They are just not getting the push they need all game long up front to have any success when they decide to run.
One more period to
Entering
go to
play
see who
call,
can make the
split
winning
verified
plays and come home with the
categories. You
victory.
have 9 options.
And now
Cover
on
1
second
SS
down for
leads
this
selected.
offense.
Audible.
From the gun, they'll try to impose their running game. Finally run out of bounds, but he has
Entering
this
play
offense
call,
rolling with a
split
first down.
verified categories.
And the
You have 9
Wildcats are
options.
moving quickly
Audible.
down the field. One back in the backfield, he gets the carry.
And if you'd have told this defense that they
Entering
stuffed
play
this
call.
great running back today, they'd have taken it. They'd have been happy. But the offense has still put up production, and they're still in the lead, trying to find a way to finish this one off.
Now they're going to throw it. Got the quick pass. Finds a crease at the 20. And he'll go out of bounds, and this aerial attack just continues to carve this defense into tiny slices.
And man, this quarterback has had a day with that pass. He goes over 300 yards on the day. Really nice job executing, putting up some yards today. Pretty good day for the young man.
They go to the ground. They bring him down, and he's going to lose a yard on that one.
And if you want to bring all your tight ends in the game, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in more linebackers, more defensive linemen, get ready for the run, less speed on the field, especially when you get down here in the red zone. I feel like I can match up man-to-man with those tight ends in the back end. Nice job understanding a run was coming.
So close to that end zone. He can almost taste it, but it'll be first and goal for this offense. And this defense has to step forward. Not only do they have to get a stop, they've got to do it quickly to keep that time from running down. And they'll knock him down.
There are 2 categories.
The big fellas coming out in the goal line defense. They go right back to this guy on second and goal. He's dropped behind the line of scrimmage. That'll be a loss of 3.
And with the stuff there, Jesse, on second down, this little third to mid-range, you got 2 downs. What are you thinking here?
Maybe getting your quarterback out on the perimeter and giving him a run-pass option. See if you can get the defense in a bind.
They'll look to throw on third and goal. And makes the grab in the end zone. Touchdown, Kentucky! That's his 3rd touchdown pass of the day. The defense has no clue how to respond right now.
No, and the defense has had absolutely no answer. He's been on the money, he's been on fire, making the right decisions and just carving this defense up.
Fielded in the end zone. It's Lewis. That's the kind of mistake that throws off your game plan. Come out of the end zone and you're stopped at the 8. Now here comes that Auburn offense onto the field again. They're going to have to be more aggressive in this drive. You can't expect to win this one, David, kicking field goals.
No, especially when you're trailing. You got to have a little more urgency and maybe a little more aggressiveness, Jesse. And field goals are not going to get it done down the stretch.
Yeah, you're going to have to take some shots. No doubt. Bottom line, plays present themselves. You just simply got to make it.
It'll be a 1st and 10 from the 29. Looking left. Quarterback just flat missed it. Incomplete.
The quarterback's lucky on that play because when you miss slant throws behind, if the defense is in zone coverage, there might be a defender standing right there willing to take that ball and return it for a touchdown.
From the gun, the running back has it. That'll be a gain of about 7, leaves it with 3rd and 3. Auburn lines up quickly.
You have 8 options, 45 with bases selected.
On 3rd and short, they'll try to pick it up on the ground here. And he gets it to the 44-yard line. It'll be a first down.
You have 8 options, 0-1 trap is selected.
Takes the handoff. It's Hunter. He is going nowhere. Stop at the line of scrimmage. They got nothing on the last play. It's 2nd and 10.
0-1 trap is selected.
The receivers often will run their route based on a side adjustment. They're trying to get to him. And he was hit just as he released it, and it falls to the turf.
It's hard throwing in the pocket, man. You got bodies and 300-pound dudes falling all over the place. They're trying to hit you. That time, the pressure got to him and forced the incompletion.
Wheel.
Looking for a man. It's Thorne. He's right on target. And sure tackling there to keep him from getting to the first down marker.
Plays like that at this point in the game just aren't going to work. You can't throw short in the middle of the field where guys get tackled and the clock starts ticking. You got to be thinking we're throwing to the sticks or we're throwing near the sidelines so guys can get out of bounds.
They're throwing for it on fourth down. He's got it, and they convert. Really nice job there by both guys to throw and the catch to work that defense and get the first down. The Tigers come to the line with a new set of downs. The short hands, it's Fairweather. Brought down just outside the red zone. He moves the chains. It's at the 22. The give to the running back from the shotgun. They get him down, but not before he picks up 5 down to the 17-yard line. Halfway there on first down, it's 2nd and 5. The give to the back. And he's brought to the ground, but not before he gets enough for the first down. We hit the 2-minute warning, and this offense is desperate to make something happen and do it in a hurry. Now down to the 12-yard line, it's first down. Looking to move it through the air. Got his man on the right. Touchdown, Tigers! Made the grab and finished the deal in the end zone.
And listen, still a ways to go. But great job by this offense getting you back in the ballgame. Now, we got a one-possession game. We got our score. We did what we're supposed to do. Now, how do we get this stop? Now, the defense has to come up big and get me the rock back.
They still need a touchdown and 2-point conversion to tie, and they'll go for the onside kick here in the fourth. That's why they call them the hands team. They're able to secure the onside kick.
Overwalk. There are 3 categories.
Kentucky sends the offense back out onto the field. So we've got a tight spot here, David. They'd love to run out the clock, but all those timeouts staring at them.
They got 3 timeouts on defense, but I know a first down ends this football game. So I got to get my guys physical, ready to roll.
Yeah, because you know this defense is going to be playing the run. They're going to be loading the box, trying to get tackles, using their timeouts to get the football back. So this is going to come down to who's better in the trenches.
They'll try to keep this clock moving on the ground. He's knocked down in the backfield. He'll lose a couple. Quick timeout call by the defense, stopping the clock to save as much time as possible for their offense. If they can convert here, that type of play can really give you a shot of momentum. Looking for space. It's Wilcox. And he's not going to make it. The defense denying him the first down. So here we are on fourth down, and this field goal kicker is going to face all the pressure in the world. Never a doubt for this big-footed guy. 49-yard field goal is good.
Entering play call, special
with that field goal, now it takes a touchdown to beat them. So you want to pin them back and then let the defense have a little room to work with. And he takes this from inside the 5. He was hoping for something a little more dynamic, but they get him on the ground at the 20. And Auburn is ready to go back to work on offense. I know the situation looks bleak, but have we nothing if we don't have hope, David?
Amen. I mean, just keep hope alive, pitch this pill around, use every second you got, make this game, Palmer, as close as you possibly can.
Fires a bullet, now it's picked off. Those kind of plays can be huge for momentum. Even with the short return, they're set up at the 45.
That should be the nail in the coffin. What a great break on the football. Getting the big turnover. You got the lead. Now just go out there, be smart on offense, and run that clock.
Sometimes it's just not your day. Things just didn't work, and that seemed to be the case here.
They didn't get the W. They didn't do enough. But now you start to think about what could I have done differently? What do I need to become more offensively? Defensively, what can I morph into to make those extra plays, Jesse? That might be the difference in the next game that I play.
Yeah, David, they just need a little bit more. They need a little bit better effort next week. They're going to need better preparation this week in practice. There's no doubt this team has a lot of talent, but we just need a little bit more to ensure that this doesn't happen next week.
So So that's going to do it for us. For Jesse Palmer, David Pollack, I'm Reese Davis saying so
Entering
long.
full
This
screen
has
screen,
been
you have
another
three
presentation
options.
of EA
Stats is
Sports
selected.
College Football.